everyone, and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be covering Chapter 3 in the earliest cities. This is from the history book for class 6 and this is just a revision, so let's begin. This is the story of the Harappan civilization, also known as the Indus Valley civilization. About 150 years ago, they found some railway lines were being laid out for the first time in Punjab, and people stumbled upon a site which was Harappa in the present day Pakistan right now. They didn't really know what that was. It was just high quality bricks. Yeah, so they made railway out of that. But then after about 180 years ago, only 80 years ago, yeah, only 80, archaeologists found the site and they realized that it was the oldest city in the subcontinent, which is India and Pakistan and all the things before division. They called it the Harappan civilization. This was developed about 4,700 years ago. Many of these cities were divided into two or more parts. Usually, the part to the west was smaller, uh, but higher. They called it the citadel. And then there was the part to the east, which was larger but lower, called the lower town. There were walls of baked brick, and they were built around each part. They were laid in an interlocking pattern that made the walls strong. Punjab and Sindh in Pakistan and in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, and the Punjab in India are where the civilization. These are the places where the civilization was. In Mohenjo-daro, there was something very special, and they saw a very special tank over there, and they called it the Great Bath. It was watertight because it had a layer of natural tar. So perhaps some of the important people might have gone in there on special occasions. Other cities such as Kalibangan and Lothal had fire altars where sacrifices may have been performed. Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and Lothal had elaborate store houses, drains, and streets. The houses were generally 1 or 2 stories high with rooms built around a courtyard. Most houses had a separate bathing area and some had wells also, which is obvious to supply water. One thing to note is that all these cities had covered drains, meaning high sanitations, and they were laid out carefully in straight lines. Each drain had a gentle slope so the water could flow through it. These drains were often connected to those on the streets, and smaller drains led into bigger ones. There were inspection holes so that they can be cleaned. Life in the city. The Harappan city was very busy, and they probably had the rulers as well, which planned the construction of special buildings in the city as well. The rulers sent people to distant lands to get metals, precious stones, and other things that they wanted. Then there were the scribes, people who knew how to write, who also helped prepare seals. The children played with terracotta toys, and they have told us a lot about how the civilization was like at the time. This is also an example of a seal. We see there's an animal and there's some Harappan writing on the top, so that's a seal. New crafts in the city. Most of the things that have been found by archaeologists were made of stone, shell, and metal, including copper, bronze, gold, and silverware. Copper and bronze were also used to make tools like weapons, ornaments, and vessels. Gold and silver were also made also used to make ornaments. This part here. Perhaps most of the striking finds were the beads, weights, and blades. As you can see, it has been made very nicely. An intricate design. This here is made out of carnelian, which is a beautiful red stone. Cotton was probably grown at Merger from around about 7,000 years ago, and also actual pieces of cloth were found attached to a silver vase and some copper objects at Mohenjo-daro. Archaeologists have also found spindle whorls, which were made of terracotta and faience to spin thread. Faience is a material that is artificially produced. It is made from. It is a gum. No, it's not a gum, but it's like shaped from sand and powdered quartz into an object. Faience was used to make beads, bangles, earrings, and tiny vessels. There were also specialists. Specialist is a person who is trained to do only one kind of work. And they were really, really good at that. Yep. The Harappans probably got copper from present day Rajasthan, also, this is very important, and even from Oman in West Asia. Tin, which was mixed with copper to produce bronze, may have been brought from present day Afghanistan and Iran. Gold could have come from Karnataka, which is present day Karnataka, and precious stones from present day Gujarat, Iran, and Afghanistan. Food for people in the cities. From the remains of plants, we can see that the Harappans grew wheat, barley, pulses, peas, rice, sesame, linseed, and mustard. They also had plough to plough their fields. Yeah. Harappans reared cattle, sheep, goat, and buffalo at that time. They also collected fruits like burr, caught fish, and hunted wild animals like the antelope. The city of Delavora was located on Kadar Bayat, also spelled as Bet, in the Rann of Kutch, where there was fresh water and fertile soil. Unlike the other Harappan cities, Dholavira was divided into three parts, which is the citadel, the middle town, and the lower hut. These were surrounded with massive stone walls with entrances through gateways. There was also a large area in the settlement where probably public ceremonies were held. We have also found large letters of the Harappan script carved out on white stone. This is quite different from the ones in other places, which were generally on small objects such as seals. The city of Lothal stood beside a tributary of Sabarmati in Gujarat, close to the Gulf of Kambal. It was situated near areas where raw materials such as semi-precious stones were easily available. This was an important center for making objects of stones, shells, and metal. There was also a storehouse in the city. Seals and sealings. Seals may have been used to stamp bags or packets containing goods that were sent from one place to another. A sealing is the impression of a seal, like this. If the sealing was intact, one could be sure that the goods had arrived safely. So they were used to mark where the goods were gone from, so you can put the marks on a good that was traveling. The mystery of the end. Around 3,900 years ago, we saw a major change. People stopped living in many of the cities. In Mohenjo-daro, we find that the garbage was piled up on the streets, the drainage system had been broken down, and new, less impressive houses were built over the streets. We were not sure what happened, but some scholars suggest that the rivers dried up, others suggest that there was deforestation. This could have happened because fuel was required for baking bricks and for smelting copper ores. Besides, some animals and their grazing may have destroyed the green cover. There were in many areas there were floods, but none of these above reasons explain how all of the cities ended. This is the mystery. It appears as if rulers lost control. Sites in Sindh and West Punjab, present day Pakistan, were also abandoned. People had moved into smaller new settlements to the east and the south. New cities emerged about 1,400 years ago, so there was a big gap in the middle. Here are some important dates. Cotton cultivation at Mirgar, about 7,000 years ago. The beginning of cities, about 4,700 years ago. The beginning of the end of these cities was about 3,900 years ago, and the emergence of other cities was about 2,500 years ago. Also, one thing I wanted to tell you is that 1,400 years was like the gap between these two, and that's really where the mystery actually is. So that's it. We have revised the whole chapter. Yep. Hope you enjoyed. And if you like, you can read through the chapter to revise it better. But that's it. Bye bye. Bye.